Yeah, do we got people that want to grab seats here? All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Today, as we've assembled a group of leaders, I'm very grateful to be sharing the stage with our leadership in the Ramsey County and our community. First, we have our Deputy County Manager, Gloria Reyes, who has now been on the job for about 6 weeks. And thank you so much for joining us, because this truly is a collaboration working within our service teams within Ramsey County. And of course, we have our board chair, Trista Martinson, who representing our Board of Commissioners. Thank you for your great partnership and being here today. And also we have with us our community members as well, Shelley Johnson-Klein from Ramsey County St. Paul Intervention, and Tyrone Terrell, the African American Leadership Council. And I also want to acknowledge that we also have our community members from Moms Demand Action. Thank you for all the advocacy work that all of you do at the legislature. You are truly making Minnesota a safer place by the work that you're doing with your great advocacy. So today, we're gathered here today because we feel very strongly that a lot of the violence, the gun violence that we have in our community is preventable. And as we have started this initiative back in 2016, our Ramsey County Gun Safety Initiative back in 2016, where we felt it was important for us to speak out on some of these prevention messages about preventing accidental shootings, suicides, domestic violence where guns are involved. Sadly, it is too often that is the case where easy access to guns that are not safely stored or secured, have resulted in tragic situations in which my office has oftentimes to respond to. Since 2021, we have had 7 cases involving young people who have been seriously injured as a result of access to firearms. You know, just recently in this year, in 2024, this spring, we had a situation in which an 11-year-old was shot in the face accidentally by a 13-year-old. And that was because of access to a loaded firearm that should have been securely stored with a gun lock. We also, in 2023, had an incident where a young 4-year-old shot himself in the hand. And those are just 2 examples, and we have more. And if people want to know about more of those details, we can share that public information. Dennis Gerhardstein, our public information officer, is here, and he can get you some of that detail. But all of these incidences can be prevented. And one of the things that we have done since 2016 is that we have distributed these gun locks to all of the libraries in Ramsey County, as well as in St. Paul. And so this simple device that can be used by anybody, and no questions asked, anybody can pick these up at any libraries, and we've distributed thousands over the course of this program. And so we encourage the public to come and grab a free gun lock. They're available, again, at all of the libraries in Ramsey County, Suburban City, as well as the City of St. Paul's libraries as well. We also had a run on the gun locks as well. Some people were using them as bike locks, and but we got bike locks too, so they're yellow, and I've got an example of what that looks like somewhere in here. And they're just a simple device like that, but we encourage people to lock up their bikes as well. So, today is just about getting that message out about safe storage and working in partnership with our community. And also there is this connection to firearms in the home, right? And having them safely secured is really, really critical. And so I want to invite our board chair, Trista Martinson, to speak out on some of those issues and what we can do to, again, prevent these tragedies from occurring over and over again in our community. And by the way, Ramsey County is not some exception. This happens on a daily, weekly basis where we have instances where people have access to firearms, which allows for people then to more easily young people or just accidental shootings or suicides that occur. So these things, again, by taking measures, working together, I believe that we can prevent these tragedies. So I'll invite our board chair, Trista Martinson.
Thank you, John, and thank you for your continued steadfast partnership on the issues of gun safety. Your unwavering support really has been a steadfast pillar of our community, and I appreciate you very much. As John said, I am Trista Martinson. I'm the chair of the Ramsey County Board, and I'm here on behalf of all of our commissioners in Ramsey County who really are concerned about gun violence. It has a profound and far-reaching impact on our society and our community as a whole. Every act of gun violence leaves lasting scars on families, neighborhoods, and our entire community. It's particularly true and devastating effects of gun violence are also in cases of domestic violence. I'm emotional because I'm a mom. Thanks to Moms Demand Action for being here. But I think about our children and our community when there are acts of gun violence. Just last week, we read in the paper about an 8-year-old Amir Hardin who was shot and killed in Burnsville by his father when he tried to save his mother in a domestic violence situation. Think about what that means to our families and to kids around him. Domestic violence incidents involving firearms are tragic and common and often deadly for families, but also for our first responders. You just have to read the paper and watch the news to see that we have law enforcement also in harm's way and dying because of domestic violence that involve guns. The impacts are beyond the immediate victims, but our entire communities. Today, Officer Mitchell is being laid to rest in his hometown. His death and the death of other first responders in Minnesota in the last few years are a stark reminder of gun violence and that we have to do more. We must do more. And we have to stand up and speak about it. It's in policy changes, it's in changing things up the way in policy and really talking about guns in a way that isn't just about a right to bear arms, but a right to bear arms responsibly, and we must demand that people do that. These gun locks today are a simple and easy step to start, and we encourage all family members to come and get gun locks and help in your home. We know that domestic violence victims often are put in situations where they're purchasing guns for their own abusers. And we want to reach out to those family members that are scared to say, I picked up this lock and we're going to put it on. It's one small step to keep yourself and your family a little bit safer. We want people to come and pick up free gun locks, no questions asked. Let's start by intervention in this small step while we have the bigger conversation around changing policy and taking action to protect our first responders, protect our community, and protect our family members. Thank you. Introduce Shelley from our Partners in Prevention and our Domestic Violence Lead. Shelley, thank you.
That was nice, thank you.
Yeah.
Each year, our agency, the St. Paul and Ramsey County Domestic Abuse Intervention Project, provides 24-hour, holistic, multicultural, multilingual services to over 6,200 victims of domestic violence and their children in St. Paul and Ramsey County. Domestic violence is a serious crime, and it affects people of all social, economic backgrounds, ages, genders, and races and cultures. The highest percentage of the victims of domestic violence are women, with 1 out of every 4 females experiencing domestic violence in a lifetime. When there is a presence of a firearm during a domestic incident, a victim's risk of serious injury or death increases by over 400%. For victims from traditionally marginalized communities with less access to protective services, the risk is even greater. The correlation between domestic violence and firearms continues to be astounding. A gun in the hands of a perpetrator of domestic violence sets the foundation for intrinsic power and control in an abusive relationship. Since the pandemic, the terrifying link has become even more pronounced with the surge of gun sales and the number and the severity of domestic abuse cases. As the commissioner mentioned, sadly, perpetrators of domestic violence with access to firearms have not only seriously injured or killed their intended victims, but also ended the lives of the victims' children, family members, friends, co-workers, and our first responders. In the United States, more than half of the mass shootings where 4 or more people are involved, the shooter killed an intimate partner. And nearly a third of the mass shooters have a history of domestic violence. Last year in our state, there were 36 domestic-related homicides. Over 60% of these deaths involve firearms. To date in 2024, almost 90% of the domestic-related deaths in Minnesota involve firearms. And as Trista mentioned, the youngest of those victims murdered was 8 years old. For victims, quick access to a gun, whether it belongs to the abusive partner or not, can be a matter of life and death. Stopping or suspending that access will save lives. SPIP and our St. Paul and Ramsey County partners have worked diligently for the enforcement of existing gun laws designed to protect victims of domestic violence. Ramsey County putting gun safety at the forefront and providing the tools to ensure that safety takes us another big step forward in protecting victims and protecting children's, families, and our entire community. And for that effort, we are extremely thankful.
My name is Tyrone Terrell. I'm the president of the African American Leadership Council, and I'm here today representing not only the council but the St. Paul Black Ministerial Alliance as well. I want to thank John, not only for this partnership, but for a continued partnership with our community. Gun violence hits the black community more than any community, and not only in St. Paul, not only in Ramsey County, but across America. And so anything that we can do to remove a gun into a more safer place, then we need to do it. And so I'm reaching out and saying to everybody, protect our family members, protect our young people. I've been to over 100 funerals of young people under the age of 20. 3 this year already. 1 2 weeks ago. And the young man that John talked about, the 11-year-old, working with his family right now. They try to put the pieces together that could have been avoided with a simple gun lock. A simple gun lock. And to my media friends, you cover all the homicides all the time. But I learned doing some work with Protect Minnesota and others in the community violence community, suicides and guns are 1,000 times almost more in this state. The Attorney General and I, when they looked it up, Minnesota 7 years in a row, almost 10,000 suicides, and the majority of them are by gun. And so we need to bring more awareness, more education, but this is not just a black problem, it's a community problem. So thank you.
So any questions? We'd be happy to try to answer anything. All right. Oh.
This is for any of you. What does the Supreme Court ruling on buck stocks mean for gun switches or auto sears?
Yeah.
That's you.
Well, we still, we've had a number of cases that have been on point on the Second Amendment, but I feel like we haven't really gained any ground with regard to those decisions. And I think what really needs to happen is that we need to stop looking at the Supreme Court for solutions, or in fact, I think right now, given what the Supreme Court is, potentially maybe there are advocates on both sides that are looking at it as an opportunity. And we need to stop thinking like that. In fact, what we really need to have is our Congress at the national level really take on this issue.
That's right.
In the wake of George Floyd's murder, there was lots of legislation that was proposed at the national level, and nothing ever changes. You know, thankfully in Minnesota, thanks to some of our advocates that are here, we were able to pass universal background checks. We were able to pass extreme risk protection orders. And those are really important steps, but I really believe that a big part of the solution is in actually getting our elected officials who represent us in Washington, D.C. to recognize that the vast majority of the public wants reasonable, safe regulation. And the solutions, I think, are not necessarily in the litigation, but it's really people getting the courage, and I'll say it out loud, it's to take on a really, I think, a very narrow special interest that opposes these types of changes. So that's one thing. And I think the next thing is what we're doing here today. As a community, we can come together and we can work on prevention, right? And so there's lots of different strategies. I suppose the litigation part of it is a strategy as well for various advocates, but that can go either way. It just everybody kind of pulling together, recognizing that we can do better as it relates to stemming the tide on gun violence in this country, because like no other place in this world, we have a serious problem with gun violence and easy access to firearms. And so today the message is really simple. Aside from the legislation, aside from the court cases, but about the community coming together and recognizing that we can all play a role in preventing these tragic outcomes.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go out that way.